Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something totally mind-bending, the hardcore verified science of waking up inside your own dreams. It might sound like sci-fi, but we're going to unpack the actual neurobiology behind an experience that completely shatters our understanding of what's real and what's just a grand illusion generated by the brain. Let's kick things off with a pretty wild question. Since dreams can perfectly simulate reality, complete with gravity, the feeling of touch, taste, and super complex emotions, how can you be absolutely certain you're awake right now? Philosophers have argued about this for centuries, right? But recently, cognitive neuroscientists actually figured out a way to test it. To do that, we're going to look at the people who actually explore this internal universe. We're talking about lucid dreamers. These are folks who become fully self-aware that they're sleeping while the dream is still actively happening. They're basically acting like astronauts of the mind, literally sending objective, mathematical data back to scientists from a completely hallucinatory world. Part 1. The scientific problem, measuring an unreachable world. So for a really long time, studying this was an absolute nightmare for scientists. How do you prove someone is conscious when they're locked inside a completely paralyzed, sleeping body? For decades, they had to rely on people waking up and just trying to remember what happened. In science, we call this the rate-limiting step. Dream memories fade incredibly fast, and they get completely distorted by your waking mind. To actually study this alternate reality, science desperately needed a way to communicate with the dreamer in real time, while they were still deeply asleep. And this brilliantly shows exactly why normal dreams trick us so easily. During standard REM sleep, a specific region called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, or DLPFC for short, goes completely offline. This is your brain's logic and critical thinking center. Because your logic center is basically asleep at the wheel, you don't even question it when you suddenly find yourself, say, flying over a city or talking to a giant orange snake. Your brain just fully accepts the hallucination as ultimate reality. Moving on to part 2. Breakthrough dream experiments, the LRLR signal. Okay, so how did they finally crack this? Well, during REM sleep, your brain essentially paralyzes your physical body so you don't act out your dreams and get hurt. But crucially, this paralysis doesn't affect the muscles controlling your eyes. Because of this biological loophole, pioneers realized that dreamers could actually use pre-arranged eye movements to send a sort of Morse code out to the waking world. If a dreamer realized they were asleep, they could intentionally look all the way to the left, then right, left, right. Scientists monitoring them could then record that exact deliberate mechanical movement on sensors attached to the sleeping person's physical face. It's literally a signal from another dimension. Fast forward a couple of decades, and this eye signaling technique led to a breakthrough that is genuinely mind-bending. In 2021, a massive study coordinated across 4 independent global laboratories proved actual two-way communication. Researchers literally spoke math questions out loud, like 8 minus 6, to subjects who were fast asleep. The dreamers heard the voices manifesting inside their dreams. Sometimes it sounded like a voice coming from a dream radio. They solved the math problem using their conscious working memory inside the dream, and then swept their physical eyes left to right twice to answer 2. Definitively, this proves once and for all that lucid dreaming isn't just a vivid imagination or some glitch in the data. It's an empirically measurable hybrid state of consciousness. It's wild to think about, but parts of the brain are entirely in deep REM sleep, generating this rich virtual world, while other parts are fully awake, crunching numbers and maintaining self-awareness. It's perfectly sandwiched right between waking and sleep. That brings us to part 3. Mind-blowing scientific results, time dilation, and brain scans. So what kind of crazy data comes back from these internal astronauts when they run experiments inside the dream? Well, using advanced fMRI brain scans, we can now pinpoint the exact fraction of a second a person realizes they're dreaming. The DLPFC, that logic center we mentioned earlier that's usually turned off, suddenly lights up like a Christmas tree. The brain is flooded with 40 Hz gamma waves. Those are the exact same high-frequency brain waves you use when you're super focused while awake. You are quite literally rebooting your conscious operating system, all while your body stays completely disconnected from the physical world. And then things get even more sci-fi. We actually discovered a real-world time dilation effect. When researchers asked lucid dreamers to just count to 10 in their head, it took the exact same amount of physical time as it does in reality. 10 seconds is 10 seconds. But when they asked them to do physical squats in the dream, it took 40% longer to complete. Why does the physics of the dream world slow down like that? Well, it happens because your brain is basically functioning as a highly advanced virtual reality simulator. When you move your body in a dream, your brain has to render the feeling of physical resistance entirely from scratch, without any actual muscle feedback from your physical body, a sense known as proprioception. It's a lot like a computer processor trying to render heavy 3D graphics without a dedicated graphics card. The brain's internal physics engine actually experiences lag. Let's look at part 4, real-world impact, healing trauma. Now, this built-in VR simulator isn't just for doing slow-motion squats or flying around for fun. It actually has profound, life-altering applications in the real world, especially for clinical therapy. In a groundbreaking recent study by the Institute of Noetic Sciences, researchers taught lucid dreaming techniques to patients suffering from chronic trauma. Get this, after just a 1-week workshop learning how to wake up inside their nightmares, an incredible 85% of participants experienced such a massive reduction in symptoms that they no longer even qualified as having PTSD. 85%. It's absolutely incredible. By waking up inside the recurring nightmares, these patients could finally face their trauma consciously. Because their logic center was back online, they could look at the terrifying environment and realize, hey, this is just a mental construct. So instead of running away, they stayed. They changed the narrative. And by doing that, they actively rewired their brain's fear response at a deep neurological level. They replaced an experience of pure helpless terror with one of profound psychological empowerment. Which leads us to part 5, the meaning of consciousness, a dynamic configuration. So what does all this empirical, mathematical data actually mean for us? What does it say about the nature of human existence and identity? Well, it proves a fascinating neurobiological concept called minimal phenomenal selfhood. Basically, it proves that your core sense of self, your ability to think, observe, and make choices, remains perfectly intact even when you are totally disconnected from your physical body's sensory inputs. You literally don't need to feel your physical skin or see with your physical eyes to have a conscious, observing self. It completely shatters the idea that consciousness is just a simple on and off switch. It's not. It's a highly dynamic, sliding scale. Your mind possesses this absolutely staggering computational power to construct a flawless, interactive, three-dimensional reality out of thin air, using nothing but memory and electrical impulses. Which brings us to our final section, part 6, questioning our reality, the ultimate simulation. This all leads to a deeply mind-bending conclusion about the waking world you and I are experiencing at this exact second. Think about it. Right now, your physical brain is sitting in total pitch-black darkness inside your skull. It has zero direct contact with the outside world, none. It relies entirely on tiny electrical signals sent from your eyes and ears to build the reality you're experiencing. But as we've just seen, if your brain, while lying completely paralyzed in a dark room at night, can build an entire alternative universe, complete with gravity, conversations, and intense emotional depth, all on its own, what does that say about the architecture of this waking reality? If the biological mechanism that builds the dream world is the exact same mechanism that builds the waking world, how much of what you see around you right now is just another incredibly stable projection? And once again, given everything we now know about the staggering, reality-bending power of the human brain, are you absolutely 100% sure you aren't dreaming right now?